Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. Hopefully, your Tuesday is starting off well. I see Rick Funcannon, Liddy, Joe Neuenfeld, Rob Johnson, Fantasy Life, CID, all in the chat. Hit the like button if you could. And again, thank you for joining us. We are brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book, born in Vegas. Speaking of sports books, let's see how we did yesterday on the recap, Queen. We are in the midst of a pretty good run here. We go 5-2. The two plays we lose are plus money plays. Well, technically even money, then the plus 110. Sniper and Buckets go 1 for 2. Mike McClure hits his pick. The two SportsLine picks hit. And of course, we had some NFL futures on yesterday's show as well. But ladies and gentlemen, let's look to the present as opposed to the past. Let's bring in the stars of the show. We have a star-studded cast, a lot of guys here. We got PropStarz, we got Larry Hartstein, we got Mike McClure, and Calvin Wetzel. I got to hand it to you. Last time you were on, you got a little bit of criticism because people are used to your shirts, your 70s, your retro, your Threes Company, Jack Tripper type shirts. You came strong today. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Hey, whoever it was in the chat, I forget who it was, so I apologize. But thank you for calling me out. I needed to step up my game last week. I told you I would, so I had to do it today.
There we go. All right, Larry Hartstein, we are 44 days away from NFL season, otherwise known as John Riggins days away. How you feeling? You're starting to warm up. Are you warming up to the idea that we're about to have college football and NFL in the coming weeks?
26 teams report today. Veterans report. There's only going to be 2 teams that haven't started their training camp today, and that will be the Falcons and the Steelers tomorrow. And then every single team will have their vets in camp. We're talking real training camp. It's ever so close. We're also Ahmad Bradshaw days away from NFL.
Wow. Ahmad Bradshaw was like the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. Just like, I mean, obviously Russell Westbrook may be a little more talented, but just went all out, went 100% every single play. Loved Ahmad Bradshaw. PropStarz, people in the chat are loving your shirt. They say meow, PropStarz. Is that a vintage cat shirt courtesy of Lil Geppetto?
It is. It's actually cats playing Mahjong, I believe. So, yeah. Shout out to all the cats out there, and have a great day.
Shout out to all the cats out there is not something I thought I would hear. Mike McClure, you do it all. I do have to ask, though, first of all, great hit yesterday, but we got golf. Like a lot of people are thinking of NFL, they're thinking of MLB. I took WNBA. Calvin's here for that. But are you already warming up to some 3M Open plays? We did our DFS show yesterday. There were a couple of guys you liked.
Yes, definitely warming up to some golf, getting ready to lock everything in. But if you followed the DFS show, there were a couple of names that I think you could pick up. I was really high on, one of those being Akshay Bhatia, the other Emiliano Grillo, 2 guys I'm very, very interested in backing across the board this week, and ready for a little more baseball action here today.
Yeah, speaking of baseball, and by the way, speaking of golf, we have our best bets show tonight at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. I've already kind of picked out my outrights, by the way, everybody. Some of them you could probably decipher from the DFS show where I'm probably going to land on a few of the names that I've got. But just FYI, that best bets show has been very, very good. The last few episodes, we've been hitting outrights, certainly hitting some finishing positions and matchups as well. All right, let's get started with some matchups in baseball. Mike, I'm going to kick it right back to you. What do we like for MLB today?
I like the Tigers here, Sia. Look, this team's been a little slow offensively coming out of the All-Star break, and I'll be the first to admit they're not as good as their record indicates. They do get to beat up on that AL Central just a little as it gets in Major League Baseball. They do have one of their bright spots on the mound today with Mitch Keller. I question how deep Mitch Keller could potentially pitch in this game, though. I think he is absolutely getting moved by the trade deadline, and they certainly don't want to risk any injury there. But it's really about the park in general. PNC Park essentially suppresses run scoring even in the warm summer months like this. So I think this is appealing here because I think the Tigers can win a game like this while scoring just 2 runs. When I look at this Tigers team, they're far too talented. Casey Mize, someone I also have interest in backing when I know that he's getting that positive park shift individually. When you talk about Mize and his pitch arsenal, he's been very good in terms of expected weighted on base average across his top 3 pitches. He was a highly touted prospect, several years ago, early in his career. I think he's still got a ton of upside, particularly against a lineup that frankly resembles a AA or AAA lineup outside of a couple of guys. So for me, I made the price point here minus 144. I've played it as low as minus 118, but I am comfortable playing this all the way up to minus 140. It's going to be sitting around minus 130 right now, kind of as a consensus number. But I think the market is just too low on the Tigers, and I would not expect that hitting slump to continue.
All right, we're going to take the Tigers. I'm checking on the time of that game because I remembered it being an earlier one, 6:40 start time for that Tigers game. We're taking the Tigers money line. We do have to move to WNBA. Calvin, I'm going to go to you. There is a question for golf. Rick Funcannon says, "See, do you like Burns top 20 plus 115?" Well, Burns, I will tell you, I haven't fully decided on him as to whether he's one of my outrights or not. I do like him top 20. The thing is, I don't know if I would take the bet because I do think there's some volatility with this tournament. And while I like him as an outright, I don't know that I like him as much as a top 20, which might sound counterintuitive, but I do think he could either spike or maybe just have an average type of tournament. So I would probably just avoid that market, the top 21 specifically, for Sam Burns. Mike, do you have an opinion on Sam Burns for this tournament?
So my opinion on Sam Burns is that he should be the favorite. He is the best golfer in this field. As far as my numbers on him, I'm a slightly negative value. So my sim makes Sam Burns top 20, 139 is the number that I make it. So not going to be playing it there, but it's one of those that's within range that I don't mind making a quote unquote negative EV play when it's that close. It's close enough. It's like right around that threshold. So if you've got reasons that you love him, fine backing him. Again, should be the favorite in this field. But everyone in the market knows that. And that's why he's priced where he is.
Yeah, and I just think the finishing position market at a course like this is going to rely on putting, which Sam Burns is great at, and scoring does lend itself to some other names that you're not familiar with, kind of sneaking inside that top 20, potentially pushing a guy like Sam Burns out. However, I love his spike potential. I absolutely think he can win this tournament. All right, Calvin, let's go to the WNBA. You're already 1 for 1 because of your shirt. How about we go 3 for 3?
Let's do it. I'm going to start off with the Sky team total under 71.5. Obviously, the Lynx are the toughest matchup in the league to score against, the slowest paced team in the league, the number 1 defense in the league, and Sky are facing them on the road. They also are still without their leading scorer, Ariel Atkins, who missed the last game. She's missing this one as well. The first time they went to Minnesota, they scored 75, and that was with Atkins in the lineup, and they shot 43% from 3 and still only cleared this by a few points. The first game without Atkins, right before the All-Star break, they didn't even hit 50. They scored 49 in that game, obviously without Angel Reese as well in that game, and she's back, so that should help a little bit. But the way that the Lynx play defense and just the lack of shooting that the Sky have around Angel Reese anyway, and then you take one of those good shooters out of the lineup and Ariel Atkins, I just think getting to 72 is going to be tough for them. So I like that under. And then I'm taking an over on Paige Beckers at 17.5 points. We're getting even money on this. She's played 6 games earlier in the season. Then she got a concussion, came back a couple weeks later and has played 12 since. And the splits are pretty stark. In those first 6 games, 20% usage, 14.7 points per game. She was kind of getting her feet wet in the league in her rookie year. Then in those 12 games after coming back, 25% usage, over 20 points per game. So she has really come on as a scorer in the last month and a half or so. And even in that early stretch, they faced the Storm, and in one of her only 2 games going over this line in that early stretch of games was against the Storm. She had 19 in that first matchup. So I love that we're getting plus 100 here on this. I think this should be more like minus 120 in this matchup for Paige Beckers, and especially the way that she's been playing and coming off the All-Star break. So we're going Sky team total under 71.5 and Paige Beckers over 17.5 points.
Let me ask you this. We've got some questions regarding the WNBA. One is from Ray Garcia. Aces minus 2.5, Reese over 14.5 points. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, Reese, I'm pretty in line with there. Obviously, she's going to be featured without Atkins, but she's also going to have a lot of defensive attention on her today. Aces, I actually took the Dream at plus 2.5. That was almost going to be one of my plays on the show, but it is in the SportsLine article. If you go look that up, it's around plus 1 last time I checked. So it had moved a little bit. Jackie Young is questionable for the Aces. So even with Ryan Howard out for the Dream, you might have a bigger piece out for the Aces. And even if she plays, I'm not sure if she's going to be 100%. She only played 53 seconds in the All-Star game, sort of a ceremonial thing, and because she's from Indiana. So I don't think she's 100%. So I actually like the Dream side of that.
We got a question from D Johnson saying Kiki over 5.5 rebounds. Any thoughts there?
That one I do love, Kiki Irief, and that's about the lowest line I've seen for her in quite a while. And another rookie like Paige Beckers, who's been playing a lot better as of late. So that's a good look.
And Calvin, this is really a question for Ben, but Joe Neuenfeld wants to know if the shirt is going to be on tomorrow's recap screen. We'll see if Ben can make magic like that happen. By the way, if you want to make any of those bets that you just heard or that you're about to hear, BetMGM players will receive an any sports odds boost token. To use the token, add any sports wager to your bet slip and activate the token. Score extra winnings if your wager that was made with the odds boost token wins. It's a super easy promo here, odds boost token courtesy of BetMGM. Well, we got to get to more picks. We got some more things to tell you about. We got our home run prop plays. Larry, you've got a future. PropStarz, you've got a play as well. I've got a golf play that I'm going to give out early. That's plus 330. Maybe we'll lower our unit size on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to cover all of that right after this message from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
We are back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I do want to remind everybody that we are still, I don't want to say giving away, you can still bid for, St. Jude. We got a lot of stuff going on there, but to give out a pick on the Early Edge, I think we got another like 10 days on that or so, but the link will be in the description. I think we may put it in the chat here. If you want to share a bet on the Early Edge, maybe just kind of, a lot of people are, aspiring cappers or what have you. They want to get on a show and get some video, whatever the case may be. The donation will be going to St. Jude. We got a lot of St. Jude stuff coming up here that we're going to talk about. But again, share your bets on the Early Edge. Courtesy of this fundraiser. And again, the link will be in the chat. It'll be in the description. Ben's already dropped it in the chat. This is one of those, I got to admit, this is one of those where not a ton of people bid on stuff like this because not everybody, wants to give out a pick on the Early Edge. But Larry, I'm going to go to you here. Like, this is the kind of thing where, you make the bid and you just might get it, but like, it's pretty cool to come onto the show. We've had experience with this, with people come on the show and kind of giving out a pick.
Yeah, and it's obviously a great cause, and you and other people are running fantasy leagues also tied to St. Jude where you can get in the league and donate. So this is just one angle that we're trying this year, and I hope a lot of people make a bid.
Yeah, the fantasy football leagues, a lot of us tweeted stuff out. I'm going to tweet stuff out after this show relating to that. Mackenzie she's a commissioner of a league. Chip Patterson's the commissioner of a league. I'm commissioner of a league. We got to fill those spots up. They're $250. This is the fantasy football thing, of course. But again, all of those proceeds go to St. Jude's. And collectively, there's going to be 24 commissioners, which is 288 people that are going to participate in this Fantasy Football Today Open. That's going to raise $66,000 towards a $100,000 goal that CBS Sports and everybody, Fantasy Football Today, are going to be raising for St. Jude. So this is just an incredible cause. So we encourage everybody to participate. All right, Larry, let's go right back to you. PropStarz, you're going to be next, and then I'll give out my golf pick at the end of the show. Larry, you've got a future, and it's pertaining to the Cleveland Browns. And I got to think, if it's pertaining to the Cleveland Browns, perhaps it's an under.
You're absolutely correct, Sia. With training camps open, giving out my fourth official NFL future on the Early Edge, and that's David Njoku to go under 675.5. This is a pretty aggressive number for a guy who's only beaten this once in his career, and that was 2023. He missed 6 games last year with ankle, knee, and hamstring injuries, which are not good for a tight end. Let's see if he can stay healthy this year, but the big thing is the Browns spent a very high draft pick, 67 overall, on their tight end of the future, Harold Fannin Jr. This guy is a freak who caught 117 balls. That led the FBS over 1,500 receiving yards. That led the FBS. They're going to play a lot of 2 tight ends. Basically, Fannin will be the move tight end, almost like a slot receiver, and Njoku will be in line doing a lot of blocking and, yes, catching some passes. But with the quarterback situation totally up in the air, with his injury history, with the presence of a young stud who's going to be the tight end of the future, I just think there's a lot of ways that we can cash Njoku under 675.5.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. We've got all kinds of NFL futures and PropStarz. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you put a lot of your NFL futures in the SportsLine Discord. What was it, last week, a week and a half ago? Are you kind of, and it's okay if the answer is no, are you kind of updating that as you go? When you grab a future, are you updating the NFL channel in the SportsLine Discord?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I make a live pick, I immediately update the Discord, concurrently. So lots of picks. I believe I have something like 20 positions already as far as NFL futures go. So deeply embedded and going to continue. So, yeah.
This SportsLine Discord was such an incredible addition for subscribers to SportsLine. I just cannot stress it enough. If you're not a member of SportsLine, you just don't know what you're missing, because the SportsLine side without Discord was already just a ton of info, just too much to absorb, frankly, when it comes to the articles and the data and the DFS plays, Mike stuff, the simulations, the model picks, you name it. Of course, the actual picks themselves too, but you add Discord and it's incredible. Speaking of Discord, Calvin, I got to ask you, there's a Queen of the Court question courtesy of Ryan Fedor. Is there anything and that's of course relating to the WNBA, any insight you have, whether it's on Discord or on this show, for that?
Yeah, I have Nafisa Collier projected as the leader for that if you want to take her. But I posted my top 10 projections for PRA in the Discord if you want to hop in there.
Wow.
Obviously, with Queen of the Court, you want to pick someone who's going to be high PRA, but also maybe who the public isn't picking as much. So hop in there, check out that list, and see who you think maybe is going to be a little bit underpicked. But yeah, I got my top 10 for the day in there.
Aaron Taylor says the Discord helps so much, guys. I can attest to that. I mean, it's just, you don't know it until you're there, and then you realize the value in all of this. But let's go to one of our most valuable members. Of course, that's PropStarz. PropStarz, you have an MLB pick for us, and then we're going to get to some home run props too. What do you have?
I do see. Yeah, we're going to the K-prop streets here, and I'm fading Eduardo Rodriguez of the Diamondbacks here, under 5.5 Ks. My strikeout model absolutely loved this look. Had a significant edge. When I looked a little bit closer at this, I understood why. Rodriguez is having a really rough season. High ERA, approaching 6 earned runs, but he actually has the highest K rate of his career by a pretty significant margin as well. But if we look at the advanced strikeout metrics, they do not paint a very pretty picture. He is a big-time regression candidate when it comes to strikeouts. His swinging strike percentage is pretty low, under his career average. So he's a regression candidate. Then you couple that with a pretty big number of 5.5 against the Houston Astros, who not only possess the 6th lowest K rate against opposing southpaws, but they also hit opposing lefties better than any team in baseball. And Erod does not really last long. His outs line is 15.5, so he's expected to get in around 5 innings. So I just think 6 strikeouts in this matchup is a tall order, a very difficult task for him. I love this spot. My model had a massive edge on this, so I made this a 1.5 unit play on the site. So I'm going to fade Erod under 5.5 strikeouts.
All right, Eduardo Rodriguez under 5.5 Ks at minus 125. A lot of value there, says PropStarz. Let's take a look at the value on the home run model. Let's take a look at the SportsLine home run model picks. Ben's already got this up here. Riley Green plus 335 says the SportsLine model, but the real odds plus 500. That is some really significant value there. Obviously, I'm only pointing that out because we don't usually see like close to like 160 points or 335 versus 500 there. Joe Adele 405 versus 440, and then we've got Jazz Chisholm plus 370 versus plus 450. So certainly in order, Riley Green, Jazz Chisholm, Joe Adele showing some significant value. I think there's significant value with a golf pick here. And I will say it's plus 330 for a reason. I'm going to top nationality market, and I'm going to take David Skins as top UK and Irish player. You might have this at your book as like top Great Britain and Ireland, whatever, UK and Ireland. Either way, that's where you're going to find it. There are 4 guys up against David Skins. Now, the favorite, who I do like and who I think might have an okay tournament, is Matt Wallace. It's Matt Wallace, it's Seamus Power, it's Danny Willett, and it's David Skins. If you recall, last week I had David Skins as one of my outrights at the Barracuda. He actually fared pretty well. Of course, he didn't win the tournament. But what I'm seeing from David Skins is the ability to pop with the putter, and that the ball striking has been there. If you watch him over his last handful of tournaments, granted, a couple of those are alt events, but some of them are just normal PGA Tour stops. He's making cuts, and he's actually finishing pretty well, including a couple of top 10s at the alt event. You look at Matt Wallace, it could go either way. His ball striking is a little bit better than David Skins, but it's not better enough for Matt Wallace to be plus 125 and David Skins to be plus 330. It's just too big of a difference. The other 2 guys in here are Seamus Power, who's in that plus 280 range, and Danny Willett, who's about plus 500. I don't think, the way Seamus Power is playing, I don't think he's going to factor in here. I don't think Danny Willett's going to factor in here. I think the 2 guys that can win this market are David Skins and Matt Wallace. I mean, I suppose because you're getting a good number on the plus 330, you could sprinkle a bit of a safety play on Matt Wallace, but I'm just going to play this straight up. I don't think you have to put a full unit on it because we're getting plus 330, maybe a half a unit or less on this one because that's going to pay out a lot. But David Skins, top UK and Ireland player at plus 330 is going to be my pick. Many more picks on the Best Bets show, of course. Larry, anything in the chat that we needed to respond to before we get to the recap screen?
Nothing from me, Sia, but maybe something else I got for you later in the week that I'm working on.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Mike McClure, did you see anything in the chat that you needed to respond to?
Not that I saw in the chat, but one thing I want to point out, whether it be the fantasy leagues that you and I are running or the bidding for coming on the show, just keep in mind that St. Jude is tax deductible on these donations that you make. So it is a 501c3. You can deduct the donations that you make if that makes a difference for anyone out there thinking, on the fence, potentially wanting to participate. It is tax deductible, and it does make making that donation a lot easier.
Yeah, Mike, I neglected to mention, and I probably left a couple of names out when we were talking about commissioners of leagues. Of course, you are one of them as well. And I encourage everybody to join Mike's league, Mackenzie's, Chips, and whoever else. I know the fantasy football guys, they're already sold out. And that makes sense, right? The fantasy football today guys like Dave Richard and Heath Cummings and Adam Azer, but there's plenty of spots left in some of the other leagues, but they'll probably sell out within the next couple of days. And Mike, I do appreciate you sort of adding that piece there because listen, $250 is certainly a lot of money, but it's just certainly for a good cause. And honestly, there's some serious bragging rights here too. The first year I did this, Mike, I actually won my block, which was pretty cool. I was the only person that was representing a league that actually won their block and advanced to that like sort of final round against everybody else who won their league. Last year I didn't advance, but there's a lot of trash talking there, and there's just a lot of not trash talking, but there's just a lot of bragging rights that you can gain, and it's fun and it's fantasy football at the end of the day. So for more information, let us know. But we've been tweeting stuff out, so it's not hard to find anything relating to these fantasy football leagues and the Fantasy Football Today Open. PropStarz, any questions before we get out of here?
No questions yet.
Calvin, anything WNBA? There was a lot of WNBA questions. Anything left over here?
Yeah, we got a few earlier. I haven't seen anything left since then.
Okay. Do you like Vegas without? Oh, we answered this, right? We do like Vegas, right?
Yeah, dream actually. I like Atlanta. I like the other side.
There we go. Okay, the other side. All right. I think we got to the SportsLine pick. We didn't get to the SportsLine pick. Let's cover that. Of course, the picks. This would be on the recap screen, but we normally do this in the middle of the show. That's on me, everybody. Christopher Sanchez over 18.5 outs at plus 135. That is courtesy of Prop Bet Guy, and Reds Nationals over 8.5 at minus 122. So a lot of picks on the show. Again, if you're listening to the podcast, I'll say that again. Christopher Sanchez over 18.5 outs at plus 135, and Reds Nationals over 8.5 at minus 122. All right, let's get to the recap screen and recap everything we've got for you today. I've got for the 3M Open, I've got a top nationality play. It's David Skins, top UK and Irish, United Kingdom and Irish at plus 330. It's a 4-person market. Mike McClure's got the Tigers minus 130. That one is at 640 tonight. David Njoku under 675.5 receiving yards at minus 110, says Larry Hartstein. And then PropStarz goes Eduardo Rodriguez under 5.5 Ks at minus 125. Calvin Wetzel and his shirt goes Sky team total under 71.5 at minus 110. And Paige Becker's over 17.5 points at even money. And then we go back to the MLB home run plays, Riley Green, Joe Adell, and Jazz Chisholm. And then, of course, we go to our SportsLine plays. Christopher Sanchez over 18.5 outs at plus 135, and Reds Nationals over 8.5 at minus 122. Recap screen isn't quite the same, says Jen M, without either a crazy soccer or MMA name. It's just nice, Jen, to get a rest from that every once in a while. As much as I love Danny Brasco and buckets, it's just nice to be able to have names that I can pronounce, but I'm sure tomorrow it will be a different story. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for hitting the like button. Thanks for bidding on all this St. Jude stuff, and thanks for voting for The Early Edge as best male hosted podcast. Well, I'm going to promote that a little bit more over the next few days. We've got about 9 days where we can still vote for that. So please keep that in mind. I've actually pinned that tweet from last week to my Twitter profile, so you can go there, take 60 seconds to vote. And the link for that will be in the chat, in the description of this podcast as well. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, PropStarz. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Mike. And of course, thank you, Ben, on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. And thank you, Gipper's Picks and Jake Scott and Aaron Taylor, Jeff Stenberg, Jen, Liddy. Thank you, everybody, for being in here every single day. We'll do it again tomorrow at 10, the day after that at 10, and the day after that at 10. We're here for you every single day. Maybe we'll see you tonight on the Best Bets show on this SportsLine YouTube channel for the 3M Open. Until then, we rest our case.